Welcome and thank you for your patience as we get started this morning. Harry Winters Jr. is a geological engineer who has had lifelong friendships with many Oodham, formerly called Papago and Pima. He is a fluent speaker of Spanish and of the Oodham language and is the author of Maricopa Place Names, published in 2012, and Maricopa Place Names, published in 2018. And he's also the author of several papers published in the Journal of the Southwest, Archaeology Southwest Magazine, the Bulletin of Old Pueblo Archaeology Center, and the Journal of Arizona Archaeology. And he also speaks just enough Maricopa and Yavapai not to starve in their company. So very much a gifted person as far as languages go. He and his wife, Susan, have been married since 1966, and they have lived in Tucson since that time. They have 4 children and 10 grandchildren. And Dr. Winters attended St. Mary's Boys High School in downtown Phoenix. He also went to ASU and earned a bachelor's in physics in 1961. He later went into the Army and served from 61 to 64, awarded the Army Commendation Medal, and was discharged with the rank of sergeant. He went on to earn a master's in geological engineering from the University of Arizona in 1966. And after being employed with Occidental Minerals Company, he went on to earn a doctorate in geological engineering with a minor in economics from the U of A in 1972. And soon after that, he founded his own company, the Winters Company, an international consulting, mining, and metallurgical engineering company. And he served as president until retiring full-time from consulting in 2006. So, an interesting anecdote, a little side note about Dr. Winters here is that while he was attending ASU, he worked for the Southern Pacific Railroad as a telegrapher, clerk, and a train order operator. And many of his shifts he worked were at the Litchfield train depot, which was located just 3 or 4 miles south of here. And he's had a mystery that he's still hoping to solve. He says that when he worked there, he sold more tickets to Poplar Bluff, Missouri than any other location. And he's never figured out why, never figured out what the connection is. So if anybody out there knows, we would love to hear what that is. So anyway, without further ado, I'd like you to help me join Dr. Harry Winters.
Thank you, Lisa. I'm I'm what they call a techno peasant, so I'm not too good with electronics. I'll try to do this right. But this morning, what I'm going to talk about are place names, the names that the Oodham, which the Papago people, they used to be called Papago, now it's Tohono O'odham. The Pima people, which are Akimori O'odham, and then a group from Sonora, the Hiachit O'odham, what they call Sand O'odham. And actually my niece there is descended from the Hiachit O'odham. And in any event, I started learning to speak the language from friends in the south of Casa Grande, 1957, and I've been speaking it ever since. And the other group that we're going to talk about their names is the Maricopa Indians, and they're not nearly so well known. Their own name for themselves is Piipaash. And we O'odham, I mean, people that speak O'odham, we call them O'obop, but they call themselves Piipaash. So let's move on to the first slide. If you look at this first slide, you're going to see, if you find Phoenix on there, you'll see a heavy blue winding line that runs from west of Phoenix all the way down to Dome and Yuma. And that's the Gila River. That's what I refer to as the lower Gila River. And the place names that we talk about now are going to be along that stretch of the river. And okay, we go to the next slide. I want to clarify on the Piipaash people, but they mainly now here, if you know where Levine is, most of them live at Levine or they live up at Salt River. But there are the Maricopa people from time immemorial were at war with both the Yumas and the Mojaves on the north and the Yumas on the south, and they were under pressure. So they eventually, at around 1200 AD, they left the Colorado River and they moved over to the lower Gila. And I'll explain how that came about. But anyway, the group there now that they call Maricopa actually includes 2 or 3 different small groups that banded together. So the next slide. In the Oodham language, a person who's from a different nation, not an enemy, but just a different nation, a foreigner, different habits, we call him Oba. Our enemy, or not anymore, but the enemy, which is the Yavapais and the Apaches, they're called Op. And then we call the Piipaash people Oobop, and those names sound kind of alike, but they're all different meanings. Go ahead. Now, the word Maricopa, not many people know, but where that name came from. Father Kino came up in 1699. He was the first person of European descent that ever met those people. And he had translators with him. He came from Sonora. He had translators from Sonora that were Pima people that spoke the Oodham language. So when he wanted to communicate with these people on the Gila River, he used the Oodham translators. Well, in the Piipaash language, the word for Gila Bend is Kwaakamat. And a kwaak, if you know what these very thorny bushes, they're a very stickery kind of bush. And mat means a field. So that bush is called catclaw in English. So the kwaak is the catclaw and mat means field. And those Pimas, the people, his translators told him these people are the Kwaakamat Oba, because Kwaakamat was their village at Gila Bend, the name, and Oba meant people from a different nation. So and eventually that Kwaakamat, the Spaniards wrote it as Coco Maricopa instead of Kwaakamat Oba, and then it got shortened by the gringos to Maricopa. So we go to the next thing. So let's see. So now a little bit, and this is really quick history. The cultural group called the Hohokam, they lived out in the lower Gila River area, out to Gila Bend and even farther right up to 1200 AD. And by 1200 AD, they had 14 villages in that Gila Bend area. And all of them had these sort of ball courts that nobody really knows what they were for. And then in 1200, all of a sudden in 1250, they just abandoned the whole area. Just all of a sudden, they just left. And nobody really knows why. But when they left, then that opened up that farmland all the way from Agua Caliente to Buckeye for the Maricopa people. So they left the Colorado River and settled in there. And that got them away from that constant war with the Quechan and the Mojaves. And then after the Tohono-O'odham, the O'odham people, they attacked that Casa Grande and they ran the Hohokam people out from that area. Then they spread out and they went into all over the desert to the south. And some of those people that went out toward Ajo, they used to go up and visit with the Maricopas, who were their friends. So eventually they settled with them. So let's go to the next one. So in that period, the Piipaash and the O'odham together in villages, they spread all the way from Agua Caliente up to near Buckeye. And Kino, he came there in 1690, and he learned and actually put on maps all these place names that I'm going to be talking about. He recorded them that early. And they were recorded time and again by explorers like Father Settlemeyer and Garces and the Anza expedition to California and their diaries. All these names are in those diaries. Now, okay, we go to the next one. Anyway, I think we've probably said enough about history, but those people lived together there until about 1840. And the Yumas kept attacking, so eventually they moved in with the Pima people over by the Middle Gila, by Sacaton and Santan, because by 1845, in 1870, in that period when the 49ers were going to the gold rush in California, they never mentioned a single Indian village all the way from Gila Bend down to Yuma. Never mentioned a one. So they were gone. And the Tohono once the Maricopas moved, why they went back to the Hickwon district where they were from in the main reservation, and that's where they are. And until the railroad was built, and when the railroad was built, some of them moved back and established villages at Gila Bend and along the river there. So go ahead with the. So again, just to quickly, Kino wrote down 20 Oatom names of villages between Buckeye and Aguacali. Settlemeyer wrote 35, and so on and so forth. Now, the thing that surprised me is one day I stopped at Arlington Cattle Company where my niece here, Eleanor, who's right there from Gila Bend, she was living with her grandfather there at Arlington Cattle Company. He was working there for them. And I went over to see him. I never met him, and I started asking him, and all of a sudden he says, well, that mountain. This guy, he remembered everything from 1700, the names of all. And it really surprised me. Anyway, so that's how I got so interested. So now we will go on to the first place that we're going to talk about, and it's called, in Oatom, it's called Chuk-Kavit. And a kavit is a mountain that's shaped like a ramp. Right? So I always think a ramp when I think of that name, and Chuk means black. That's the Oatom name. The Maricopas, they call it V Halya Kwaamp. A V is a mountain, Halya means in the water, and the Kwaamp means lying on their chest. So the Maricopas think that mountain looks like somebody lying on his chest to drink water out of the Gila River. You'll see why. Go ahead. There it is. The Gila River is, if you look to the left-hand side, the Gila River is right there at the point of the mountain. So that's why the Maricopas say that mountain is lying there to get a drink out of the Gila. But the ramp shape is what the Oatom call it. They call it Chuk-Kavit. Okay, now we'll go, and if I'm going too fast, just tell me to slow down. All right, the next place, and it's right around the corner from this mountain, about a couple miles, is called Kok-Oiki in Oatom, and that means a rattlesnake's house, where the rattlers live. There was a farming village there at these little white hills, and you can see that picture of go ahead to the picture, and you can see that picture standing at Arlington Cattle Company looking east across the river. And those little white hills there are what's called Kok-Oiki, and was still well known in 1970, the name of the place. A lot of pottery and things in that area. Okay, the next one. The next name, a mountain I'm going to show you is called Mashat Toak, and it means Moon Mountain. I don't know the Piipaash name of it, but it's a very high peak, and it's about 2.7 miles northeast of Gillespie Dam. So let's go to the picture. That peak in the middle it's called Moon Mountain, and in fact that whole range is called that way. You wouldn't know why unless you looked at it from the south. If you look at it from the south, it's all full of black and white streaks, like the face of the moon is all streaked up. But anyway, that's that. You can see that mountain real clearly from the old highway to Gila Bend. Okay. All right, now, the next place that we're going to talk about, and I think you might as well go to the picture. It's easy, yeah. You probably recognize that. That's the site of Gillespie Dam. And it's you can see you're looking south through that gap where the Gila River flows in Gillespie Dam. Now, the Oatom name is Chuk-Shapich. Chuk means black. A shawpitch is like a pass that you can walk through from one side to the other. It's different from a saddle in the mountain, which they call sha'alik, but a shawpitch, you can walk it right through, come out the other side. Now, the Maricopa people, they call it Vinyilia Tukev. V again is mountain. In their language, Nyilia means black, and Tukev means coming together. So they call it where the Black Mountain comes together. That's the Piipaash Maricopa name. Okay? Am I going too fast? No? All right. All right, the next picture is of a group of little hills that come out, ridges. They're thin and they're flat, and that's what Komalik means. But since there's more than one, we say Kookomalik. And you can get right to those, right up to the bottom of them. If you go to the bridge across Gillespie Dam, take the dirt road that goes down the west bank, and just like a half a mile or so, you can turn in on at an easy drive, and those things are covered with petroglyphs. They're just petroglyphs everywhere. Okay. In fact, there's a picture of some of them at Kookomalik. And there you can see them clearly. It's a big basalt lava flow, dark lava, so they really stand out. And now we're going to talk just a minute about Gila Bend. If you go to the next one, I don't have pictures because there's really nothing to take a picture of. But again, I explained already, the Oodham name is Upat Oiduk, which means cat claw field, and the Coacamat in Maricopa means exactly the same thing. The Mexican people, when they first come there, they called it El Tesotal. In Spanish, Tesota means cat claw bush. And Kino, he put that village on his map that he drew in 1695. So you know how long that place has been there. There weren't any good restaurants there other than where Eleanor worked in either. So, okay, so now the next place I'm going to talk about is what we call the Painted Rock Mountains. And you know it's about 10 miles west of Gila Bend. And the Gila River goes through a gap at the north end of them. They built that big earth-filled dam they call Painted Rock Dam. Well, the Oodham call a mountain Sawupuk, which means a place that's all red. And the Maricopas, they call it Kukupur Nyavash, and that requires an explanation. Nyavash means a house or where somebody lives. But Kukupur is a spirit. And according to the story, there's a cave at the north end of there, right by where the dam is now. And if you find that cave, you're supposed to go in there and sit with your face to the back of the cave and hold your hand out and close your eyes. And sort of soon, if something's going to happen, you'll hear a big wind coming. And Kukupur, that spirit, he will put something in your hand that will make you have good luck or whatever you ask for. But I suppose it's a lava tube, but that's that Kukupur Nyavash, so if you want good luck, you can go and try it. If you go to the picture, that you can see why they call it red, because that if you drive through that pass on your way from the school at Palomas up to that dam, you'll go right through this gap. That's the same gap that Kino and the Anza expedition, everybody used that gap to go down the river. So when you go through, you're going through a historic road. Back many years ago, some guy got the idea to make it a toll road going through that gap. And he was charging 25 cents a piece to drive your wagon and horse through there. And the Oodham then, they gave it a name. They called it Namakakom Volk, the expensive road. Anyway, go ahead to the next picture. That's in the same mountain, that red, that type of clay is used in making oyas that you can see the outcrop of it in the middle, and the Oodham call it Hut, and the Piipaash call it Quer. And it's just right off the road. You can go and dig a handful if you want from there. Okay, so now look, what you're doing here is you're standing on the road to the Painted Rock Dam, and you're looking west across the Gila River floodplain at Oatman Mountain. And the Tonawattam, they call that mountain Alikuri Toak. It means like a young man mountain. I don't know any Maricopa name for it, but the area was a big farming area for the Piipaash, the Maricopas, and they called that area Tadish Kol Yadik. Well, Tadish is corn, Kol means a long distance, and Yadik means stretched out. So that cornfields were stretched out for a long way, so you call it Tadish Kol Yadik. Okay. Now, in Oodham, like I said, that Alikuri Toak, the Oatman Mountain, it means a teenage boy. I don't know the Maricopa name, but I do know that the Maricopas and the Oodham had a village, a farming village at the south side, at the bottom of it. And the Piipaash, they called that village Humar Unya Kwasham. A Humar is a young man. Unya means road or trail, and Kwasham means you're looking at it in a distance. So Humar Unya Kwasham is a boy looking at the trail in the distance. And that same Humar, that's why the Oodham call it Alikuri Toak. And I don't know what the origin of the Piipaash name is, but again, Kino wrote it down. Anza camped there. He camped right at the base of that thing on his way to California on his expeditions. They gave it the name La Rinconada, and I'll show you why. If you know some Spanish, you know rincon is the inside corner of something, not the street corner you stand on, but the inside corner in a house. Well, take a look at that map, and down at the southern face, you'll see a little place where it looks like a slot cut in there, and there are two corners. Go ahead to the next slide. All right, then you can really see it there. Look at the bottom, see those corners. So there's more than one rincon, so the Spaniards call it La Rinconada. And that's where the Anza expedition went to discover San Francisco. They camped right on that flat ground below it. Okay. The next place we're going to talk about is Chuchamuck-Oiduk, and that is on the south side of the Gila River, directly south of Agua Caliente. And the reason they call it that, we'll go to the next picture. I think it's easier. The reason they call it Chumuk in the Oodham language means something like caliche. It's caliche or a white, ashy, volcanic tuff, that kind of white rock that has bits of this and that in it. That's what Chumuk is. Now this plural is Chuchamuck because there's a whole series of these ridges. Well, the big wash coming south or north from Sentinel into the Gila River flows out onto the Gila River floodplain right here. So it was a great place to put fields. And so it was a big village then. And I don't know the Piipaash name, but the Oodham call it Chuchamuck-Oiduk. Okay? There's another picture of what that chumuk, when you see that stuff, you think chumuk. Okay. And if you look north from Chuchamuck-Oiduk across the river, that big mountain is the one at Agua Caliente. And both the Oodham and the Maricopas had the same name for that. In Oodham, we call it Stone Shuaduk. Stonia is hot and Shuaduk is water, and the Maricopas call it Ha Kupina. Ha is water for the Maricopas, and Pina means hot, so Ha Kupina is hot water. It's a beautiful down there. Okay. Now, if you've made that drive to Yuma, you know about Mohawk Peak, when you go through Mohawk Pass and the Mohawk Mountains. So if you go to the picture, that peak, and I think my wife Susan took that picture, you can see that sharp-pointed thing sticking up. Well, in Oodham, we call it Kusawa Tope. Kusawa is your neck, and Tope means twisted. It looks like somebody, twisted somebody's head off there. the head's not there no more, but so they call it Kusawatope. And the Maricopas, they call it V Squina, V Mountain, and Squina is a big basket that you store things in. Like they used to keep corn and things in a basket they'd put on a platform above the ground. And that's where their name is. It's not too obvious to me, but that's what they call it. And the Gila River flows right by the north end of it. Okay. Going on west a little bit, someplace that it's nice to visit, and at one time was actually a Hollywood movie set, is this Baker Tanks. And you get there from down by instead of turning north up to Tacna, you go south and go across the railroad tracks. You don't need four-wheel drive, but it's probably a good idea. Anyway, it was a major watering place on a whole bunch of trails. I don't know the Oodham, well, I do know the name, but in Piipaash we call a watering place wet, which just means a red place. Because go ahead to the next picture. You can see the rock is all red where the water is. The Tono Oodham and the Piipaash used that watering place. There was a trail from the Colorado River Delta that the Cocopas used to go visit the Maricopas. There was the trail up the river from Yuma. There were all kinds of trails met, and they used this water. The Oodham named the place after a little mountain that has a real steep side. They call it Gahudach, but I don't think I have a picture of that. Okay, yeah, and here's you're looking south from. You see that red ground where the water is in that little ditch like in there, and those are the Copper Mountains off to the south. And if you get an okay from the Marine Corps, you can drive all the way down to those mountains. Okay. Now we are going to talk, you know where Antelope Hill is, there's a high school there, and the mountain there, the Oodham call it Vijitoak. It means bald mountain, because there's hardly nothing grows on it. No mesquite trees, no palo verde trees, no nothing. And the Cochin and the Maricopas and the Yumas have the same name for it. They call it Viakpe. And Akpe is one of those metates that you grind things on. And the sandstone in there is really abrasive. And the Maricopas used to walk all the way down there from Agua Caliente, and the Yumas walked all the way up from Yuma to get big blocks of that stone, and they carried it home to make metates out of it. And we call it Oodham, we call it metate machut, but the Piipaash, they call it Akpe. Anyway, that name has been recorded forever, by explorers. The worst thing that could happen is that the Maricopas and the Yumas met when they both went there to get the metate rock. If you go to the next picture, you can see there's nothing on it. And that's why it's Vijitoak, Ball Mountain. All right, I think we're going to skip the next one because I don't have a picture. We'll just go on to the next picture. We've made it so far that now I'm going to switch from the lower Gila and go to the Salt River. So there are some interesting things there. If you go to the first picture, you recognize the four peaks that are east of Fort McDowell and Mazatzalma. When you go to Payson, you go right, you look right at them. There are some interesting names there. The Tono Oodham, the Oodham people call it Mashat Sha'alik or Masha Sha'alik, either way. But Sha'alik, if you look at the four peaks, look in the center and there's that big notch. Well, that's what a Sha'alik is. And Masha is moon. So it's the moon's pass or a moonlit pass. That's what it means in the Oodham. Because I guess the moon really shines off those white rocks up there. But the Oodham have another name for it. They call it Aagkachanyu'adam. Now, a Oodham is somebody that dances and sings, like at a ceremony. And Aakach means he's wearing antlers, like some kind of a headdress with antlers. All right, the Maricopas call it Iquem. It means exactly the same thing as Aakach and Oodham. Iquem means wearing the antlers, and Quamash is somebody that dances and sings. So you ask yourself, how did that happen that these two people have that name? Well, it turns out, and I didn't find it, I had a Yavapai Indian lady who tutored me how to talk Yavapai for about 4 years. And she told me, because I used to say, I would say to her, Wika amba amajikam. It means I'm going to just take a walk in the mountain, in Yavapai. Wika amba amajikam. And she would say, no, you go over there and you might see something scary. And oh yeah, well, they believe there's some spirits out there that they call kakaka. And those kakaka people, they can either help you or hurt you, depending on whether you respect them. So every year, the Yavapais had a dance out there, and the dancers wore those big headdresses like that with the antlers. And that's why the Oatam and even though they were enemies, the Oatam and the Maricopas knew about this, and that's where that Iquem and Aakach and Oodham came from. Okay, so we can go on to the next one. All right, when you go to Fort McDowell, you look on the south side of the road, there's this very prominent hill that the Tohono calls Sawuk, which means red place, and the Piipaash call Vihuet, which means red mountain. And it's pretty obvious why. The Yavapais, their name is Huatakiala, and that means red and cracked. You look out on the right side of the picture, you see that prominent crack? That crack is what they mean when they say Kiala. So Huat is red, Huatkiala, red and cracked. That's their name for that mountain. Back before the Salt River Indian Reservation was founded, this mountain belonged to the Yavapais, but the Yavapais, because they fought against the U.S. Army until the 1870s, they were exiled to San Carlos. Well, during the period they were in exile, the Salt River Reservation was created, and that mountain was included in it. That's still a bone of contention. The Yavapais today, they still say those people stole our mountain. That's still what they say. Okay, so the next picture. Again, when you're going to Fort McDowell, you can look east and see that Goldfield Mountain, we call Goldfield or Pass Mountain. That in the Oatam language is called Totshuk, that means foam. And they call it that because that white strip looks like the flood that wiped out the world and left that mark of foam up there. And that's why it's called that. And the Maricopas call it Amel Kunila. Amel is a belt, but Kunil means black. And I asked those old Maricopas, how come black? No, that's just what we call it. So live with it. All right, and that's another picture of that same mountain. Now I'm going to drop down to the middle Gila River and go to the picture, if you would. That mountain is on the Maricopa Highway, right where the Gila River is, just this side of it. When you go to Maricopa, down that Maricopa Road, you go right by that east end of it. That mountain has an interesting name. It's called, well, in Oatam, we call it Al-Aji. And the reason we call it that is because it has these very thin-bedded rocks that are Aji, or Aaji. Aji means thin. It's the Pinal schist, and it's a very thinly layered rock. But the Maricopas, they call it Viva Kiva Ao, or just Vivav for short. They tend to shorten stuff a lot. Viva Kiva Ao means the mountain back home. Well, why do they call it that? Well, they used to have about 10 or 12 villages near the bottom of that mountain. One day in the 1850s, 1857, the Yumas sent 200 guys up to attack them and try and wipe them out. So there was a big fight right near the bottom of that mountain. The Maricopas got the Pima Friends to come and help them. And so they beat the Yumas. There was only one Yuma left. And, but not too many years after that, maybe 20 years, the Maricopas left this place and moved up to Levine. So then they call this mountain Viva Kiva Au, you know, the mountain back home. And during World War II, when the Maricopas joined the Army and went to fight in the war, they went to basic training. The bus used to go by driving away. They'd look over there and see the Sierra Estrella mountain. And that became their Viva Kiva Au. Now it became their mountain back home because they lived in Levine. Now, right in the middle of that picture, you see a kind of a concave, a little pass in there. And go ahead to the next picture. That area, the Maricopas call it V. Cuscat. V is a mountain, and Cuscat refers to the shape. And it means like sucked in like that. So like if I was a drill sergeant in the Army and I was talking to a bunch of Maricopa recruits, and some guy standing there with a pot belly, I would say to him, "Hey, mat Cuscat, suck it in." Well, the important thing about that is that the old Oodham Trail from Gila Bend to the Phoenix area went right through that pass. The first time Keno came to the middle Gila River, he came right through that pass. And it used to also be the trail to the Mojave Indian country. But it's all right in that pass. It's a rugged trail, but you know, you wonder why would they do that instead of just walking around on the riverbed instead of going to all that trouble. Well, the Gila River was the boundary between the Yavapais and the Maricopas and the Oodham, and it's full of brush. And I think it would be a lot, don't want to get killed, it'd be a lot better to go up high where you can see what's going on than be in that brush with the Yavapais looking for you. Okay. So the next picture. Did you say that what? Did you say that passes in the Estrella Mountain? Yes. Yeah. If you go to Levine and you know 91st Avenue and look west, you know you can see it. All of that area has names in Piipaash and Oodham names for all those little hills. Okay. So those two little hills are out there. They're on the west side of the river. The river's where all those trees are. The Oodham call it Havanya Kosh. A Havanya is a raven, that bird, and Kosh is a nest. And the Maricopas call it Kak T'osh. Well, a cock is a raven, and T'osh is the babies. So they have the similar name. The importance of it is that the final treaty that made peace between the Yavapais and Apaches and Oodham and Maricopas, it was negotiated there by the U.S. Army, by that little, those hills. All right, that's the Sierra Estrella, and that's the river, what the Gila River still looks like just before it flows into the salt. Right south of there, the bedrock comes almost to the surface. So water underground is forced up over, and it makes beautiful. There's fish and birds and everything. We call the Sierra Estrella in Oodham, we call it Komutk. Komutk refers to the long shape like that. It's long and thin rather than being just like that. And a Vialyacha is a name that I say it means a male homosexual mountain, and why it has that name, I don't know. But there's another mountain down by Yuma with the same name. No idea why, and neither did anybody else. But that's what it means. Okay. Now, the final thing I'll talk about, if you want to go ahead and one more. All right, this is, you know where Monument Hill is, you folks out here. All right, you see the way the river, right below the junction of the Gila and Salt, it bends out. See that? It kind of makes a bend there. All right, that little mountain there that they call Monument Hill in English, the Piipaash call it Hak Shivado. Hak means off to one side, and Shivado means it was shoved out there. So that river, because of that mountain, it looks like the river was pushed out to the north. So that's where the name Hak Shivado comes from. Do not walk on that mountain. It's one of these rattlesnake dens where they hibernate in the winter, and that ground is just covered with rattlers when the warm weather comes. And there is a picture of Hak Shivado. I didn't think we'd get through it this fast, but we did. So, yes, sir. What is it? The maps that show where these little locations are. Yeah. You know where I found it? Yes. The National Geographic Society and the United States Geological Survey, they produced a whole series of maps that are on computer disks. I don't know where to buy them now, but used to be able to buy them at map stores, and they're on 5 different scales. And I took that map from there, from one of those. But yes, you can, if you buy the U.S. Geological Survey 7.5-minute quadrangles, you can see all of these. Yeah, the best place to get maps is the U.S. Geological Survey. Well, thank you for your attention, and if you're interested, Lisa knows how to get in touch with me. The books that I wrote on these place names are available, and Old Pueblo Archaeology in Tucson sells them. And, you know, any book you buy, it helps out them with their archaeology work. We split the take, you know, so. Yes, sir.
Do you know the name of the mountain in Santan?
The which?
Along Santan?
Santan? Yeah, it's called, let's see, Chuvkawotk. Chuv is, you know, tall, and Kawotk from its shape. Chuvkawotk is what it's called. Chuvkawotk. Yeah, and the one on the south side, the Sacaton Mountain, that's different parts have different names, but the vein where the antennas are, it's called Navacom. And the nav, you know, is that prickly pear cactus, Navacom, and the fruit on it is Iipai. Navacom, like N-A-V, Navacom. Yeah. Yeah, and that little ridge down there's a little ridge they call Komalik down, you know where that is, by the way to Blackwater. Stukumashu, Duck. Yeah. Okay. Yes? Autumn. Yeah. Well, the word autumn really means a human being that, you know, follows the autumn way, like an autumn member. We have Akimole autumn, that's the river autumn, and that's the people call Pimas. We have the Tohono autumn, the desert people, that's the, you know, the what used to be called Papagos. And then there was a group in Mexico that lived in the sand dune country out toward the Gulf, and they call them Hiachut Autumn. Well, Hia is fine sand like you find in sand dunes, and that chut means in it. So Hiachut Autumn, that's the autumn in the sand dunes. And, but we all have names for each other too. So some like to joke quite a bit. So the Tohono Autumn that live up in the desert above the river, One nickname we give the Pimas is Tawucho Autumn. It means the autumn down below us. But they call us Tadam Autumn, the people on top of us. But we used to call the Pimas Hadam Momim too. It means sticky heads because they used to put clay on their head from the riverbed. But we have, there are all kinds of, well, the Autumn people have a really good sense of humor. And that's always joking. Yes, ma'am.
Do you know what they call Father Keno, other than?
His name?
Yeah.
They just called him Paul.
Oh, the Papa.
Paul, yeah,
Oh, okay.
yeah. Well, the Yavapais have an interesting name for those people that I'll just quickly, I'll get. The Yavapais, when the Spaniards first came in, the one thing the Yavapais noticed about them was that these people didn't know where their water was. They didn't know where the water holes were and the springs or anything. They had to carry water with them. So the Yavapais named them after that. They named them people that have to carry water. Haigo. Ha is water. Haigo means a water carrier. That's what they called them. So the Mexicans came and they had that name. But then all of a sudden the American people came down and they were different. But they had to carry water too, canteens, water barrels, so they called them Haigo. Now the Yavapais switched and they said, they start calling the Mexicans and Spaniards Haigohan, the original water carriers. Yeah.
Are you aware of any organizations that operate tours along this area?
I don't know. I mean, the best way to do that is to get in contact with a group like Archaeology Southwest or Old Pueblo, because they do tours all over. That they would be, and they're both in Tucson. There's probably somebody up here too, but those outfits, they do really nice tours to different places. Yes.
How do I get to those petroglyphs?
Sorry?
The petroglyphs?
Yeah.
You showed pictures of how do I get there to
All right. Go down like you were going to go to Gila Bend on the new highway, but take the turn off to the right that goes to Arlington. It'll say Arlington and Hassayampa, and you take that's the old highway to Gila Bend, and it's paved. So you take that and you go through Arlington, and you'll go up a little rise, and you'll be looking down at Gillespie Dam. All right, so you go right before you start driving across the dam, you take a right turn onto a good wide dirt road, and you go like not even a mile, and you'll be looking at those basalt cliffs. You just drive right over there. But that Hassayampa, incidentally, is more Yavapai language. Hassayampa means water under the sand.
Do you remember the name of the church that was across the road from that Aji, like by Maricopa?
Yeah. What about it?
Do you remember the name of that church?
Church? Oh, no, I know where you mean, but no, I don't. I know it's, they tore it down and built a new one, and they tore that down. I don't know. No, sorry. Yeah. Okay, I guess we're done. Yeah, oh. What? I can't, I don't know what.
She's asking if you still do presentations elsewhere. She's asking if you teach or do presentations.
If I what?
Teach. Presentations.
What do you, I'm not getting it.
She's asking if you're a teacher of this information. Do you teach?
Oh, am I a teacher? No, the Autumn people teach me. I hear what they say, and I respect them, and they've been. I've helped them with their cows and horses, and I've been hunting all over the place out there with them. I don't shoot when I'm on the reservation. I figure it's their game, so they shoot. But then they make me track it down if they wounded it, and I have to track it down and find it.
But there's some of us that are awesome and we're urbanized, we don't know our history. And so what you're telling me is
Yeah.
giving me an insight as to how our history evolved.
Yeah. Well, it's you.
What I'm asking you, are those, is the information you're giving here in the books?
Yes, it is. It is, and there's a lot of history in the book. It's about the first edition is about 800 or 900 pages, and the second is about 1,200 pages, and but you know, I learned this from the Oodham, you know, and I was lucky. I was 17 years old when they started teaching me, and
For your interest.
huh?
Thank you for your interest.
Well, that's my family now. Die hoogie, like we say in Oodham, die hoogie, that's the end of it.